Hello everyone, my name is Faith Cook and today I'm giving my marriage presentation number 2. In this presentation I'm going to be talking about changing communication in a Christian and godly way. There's my first slide. So here's our little agenda for today. We have the introduction, some problems in communication, tips and tricks for communication in marriage, and practical application, and then our summary. So here's our introduction. Communication is any behavior that transmits information between people. And I got that from the Worthington book. So that includes body language, that includes verbal language, basically anything you communicate between two people is considered communication. Okay, so here's some problems that we encounter in a marriage. So firstly, we can either do all or none of the talking, which does not get us anywhere and does not benefit anyone. Selfishness, so being so focused on your point of view that you can't see your spouse's point of view, ultimately putting yourself above your spouse, that leads to a lot of communication issues. Experience interference, which is kind of weird sounding together, but basically allowing your experience in life, your individual experience, the way you grew up, etc., to interfere with the way that you communicate with your spouse. So if you had childhood trauma, maybe your parents fought, something along those lines, you allowing that to interfere with your current relationship with your spouse, that can become a really big issue. Personality differences, so you may be an introvert, your husband may be an extrovert, little things like that can interfere with our communication and with what we do on a day-to-day practice. Busyness, making sure that we're not getting overly busy to the point that we don't even have time to communicate with our spouse. That can be a huge issue in marriage communication. So now that we've listed all of our problems, not all of them, but a bit of them, I have a little quote from Worth Finding Ministries when I would do my research, and it basically said, both of you get your life in tune with the Lord, and you will be in tune with one another. So the whole point of a Christian marriage is to be moving toward Jesus together, and the whole reason for marriage is for building the other person up stronger in the Lord and becoming better people together. So if you get your life in tune with Jesus, then your life will be in tune with your spouse. And that is something that is really cool about the Christian life. So here's some tips and tricks. A lot of these I found in research recently, so they're not all original, but I have 4. Number 1, don't act like a coward. I actually found this from a very helpful YouTube video on Christian communication and marriage by Jessica Lewis. She said, bring up the hard stuff. Don't be afraid to not talk about hard things or not talk about emotionally difficult things. Don't act like a coward. Bring up the hard stuff. Talk about it immediately. And that way it's not building up inside of you and doesn't cause issues. Number 2, don't be blinded by your own experiences. I talked about this a little bit ago, but learn to see through the eyes of your spouse. Learn what it's like to be them. Put yourself in their shoes, and before you jump to conclusions or assume things, take a second and think about what they've told you about their previous experiences in life. Learn to see life through the eyes of your spouse before you jump to a conclusion. And that can avoid a lot of conflict. Maintain focused attention when you're talking to them or having any kind of communication with them. That means eye contact, steady eye contact, just definitely shows that you are actually paying attention to them. Initiate conversations about your spouse's concerns. So that shows them that you actually care about what they're struggling with, what's going on in their life. Just things like that, making sure that you're listening attentively. And then one that I found super, super beneficial was a quote from Building an Intimate Marriage. It said, the best way to change your spouse is to change yourself. And especially in a Christian marriage, that is so helpful, because I think we go into marriage sometimes thinking like, well, this little thing, it kind of bothers me, but it'll change eventually. It'll go away over time. And that's really not how it works. We shouldn't be seeking to change our spouse. We should be seeking to change ourselves. And when that happens, we find a really peaceful middle ground. And ultimately, you're trying to change yourself to be more like Jesus. And that just benefits the marriage overall. So I found that very helpful. So here's another slide on some different ways we can communicate in marriage. And I just went ahead and listed them out. First of all, like I said before, listening effectively. That is a really big tool, being able to repeat what they just said back to you. It shows them that you are actually listening and you care about what they're talking about. Using, I feel that, blah, 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 to resolve conflicts. So I statements brings up conflict without putting a ton of blame on them, or it takes away the all or nothing statements. Learning that you are for them and never against them. Anything you bring up in conflict, you are saying it ultimately to make both of you work better together. You're not saying it to attack them or to hurt them. You want to make sure your intentions are in the right place. Speak to your spouse's love language. Learn what they love. Learn what makes them feel loved, and speak that language to them regularly. Be still with them, so be present. Be aware of their struggles and just sit with them. Ultimately, this is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, and just learn to sit in the silence with them and be with them even when they're going through tough times and they may not need advice. They just need your presence. Seek to understand your spouse, understanding how their mind works, understanding their experiences in life. Like I said, you're spending the rest of your life with this person. You should be always seeking to understand them more. Eliminate unnecessary distractions. So that means putting away your phone when you're having a serious conversation, or any conversation. Put away your phone. Learn to just block out noise. Just give them your full attention. And then ultimately put Christ at the very center of your marriage. And that is going to lead to the best possible relationship that one can have. So along that last line, focusing on Jesus, which I think is the most important part of the Christian life and most important part of a Christian marriage, I had a couple different points. So I wanted to focus on spending time together with him, and then voicing spiritual needs and growth in your marriage. So spending time together with him, that's having devotions together, that's praying together for your family, your future family, that's going to church, having Bible studies, prayer groups, voicing spiritual needs and growth. So be honest and open about your spiritual needs and where you think you can meet in the middle on that. And then regularly share with each other what God is actively doing in your life, in your personal life, in your individual life, and in your marriage as a whole. So ultimately, the whole point is that we can have a beautiful and God-honoring relationship if we are both open and honest, and we are completely dedicated to God and putting Jesus at the center of our relationship. So here are all my references. I have 4. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.